Welcome to this week's episode of A Tale of Two Scribes. I'm the host, Eric Bishop. This is a place where interesting people come to share their stories. I hope you'll support tonight's guest. As for myself, I'm a father, author, travel enthusiast, and lover of the outdoors. If you'd like to see some of my creative works, my novels, please go to my website, ericpbishop.com. Thanks for joining us tonight, and enjoy the journey. Welcome to another episode of A Tale of Two Scribes. So today I'm super excited to have Steve Stark on the program. Hey, Steve.
Eric, thanks
Thank
for
you
having
for
me on, mate.
thank you for coming on. So we had to coordinate our times because we do have a ocean that separates us.
Yep.
Um, but that's kind of the cool part of technology too. I was actually talking about it with my daughter the other night, and she was asking me, "So, Dad, how exactly can I like place a phone call to someone overseas, like in Japan? And how could they hear my actual voice?" And I'm just like, I have no idea. Someone figured it out. I was like, even
Yeah.
better than that, you could do a video call. You can get on FaceTime with someone in Tokyo, and it's not a 3 hour delay. It's literally
Yeah,
that they're showing you, hey, look, I'm in this particular spot. So technology is a pretty wild thing.
definitely. It's made a huge difference, hasn't it?
It
It's got
really
its pros
has.
and cons, but
I was just going to say that pros and cons. The beauty of it is something like this, where you can connect with people around the world. You can. I'm obviously a big traveler, and it always excites me the fact that if I want, I can pick up my phone and buy a ticket and come over and see you in the UK this
yeah,
afternoon if I wanted to, and I could just do it from a couple clicks, which is kind of scary in a way, but it's kind of exciting versus. You go back a couple hundred years ago, and I'd write you a letter and you might get it in 8 months, and
yeah,
you might never get it. And if we decide to hang out and meet at the Market Porter for a drink or something, yeah, that's going to take months of travel, and one of us might die.
yeah.
It's
It's much
definitely
better
very
this one.
wild. So, well, before we at some point we're going to talk about this, the writer's block.
Yep,
But long before we talk about that, I want to talk about you and talk about what got you into this crazy world of writing. So tell everyone a little bit about your background, kind of where you grew up and how you decided
sure.
to dive into this world of making up stories.
Well, I grew up on the southwest coast of England,
Okay.
uh, little seaside towns.
Nice.
They're mainly like sort of party towns, I would say, almost.
Okay.
They're like for tourists and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
lots of nightclubs, lots of bars. And so once I got out of school, that's the sort of place you're going to wind up working most of the time.
Right.
So I got into working in bars and then started working security on the
Okay.
bars, and from there sort of branched out into working security in several places.
Hmm.
Um, as that industry sort of changed and evolved, I moved into something else, and I sort of still had all these stories, all these experiences that
Hmm.
I'd had, and I started to sort of to write them down and share them out, and people would be quite shocked at some of the things that I'd experienced or the things I'd witnessed. And I thought, well, there's something
Right.
here.
Yeah.
So I started playing with that, and sort of rather than make it all factual, I decided to put a fantastical spin on it and sort of
Hmm.
channel those things into horror.
Hmm. I, I love it. It's amazing how so many stories people tell. There's a nugget. There's a fact in there that kind of gets that imagination going,
Yeah,
and then the imagination takes over. So what starts as this experience going into town and going to a restaurant turns into this just knockdown, drag out battle in a street corner and a
yeah,
gunfight or a car chase. And so, but it starts with that one experience. And I always tell people, and I know sometimes there's obviously financial reasons people can't travel, but I always try to encourage, especially my kids, the more you can travel, the more you can see, the world opens up to you, and especially from a literary standpoint, if you can get
mm,
out and even if it's just go to your local pub, wherever you can go at times, and just keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, as long as you haven't damaged them, as we were talking about off
yeah,
off camera. As long as you haven't damaged your ears, you don't hear the constant ringing. you don't know what you're going to hear, what you're going to see, and then especially if you're a storyteller or you
Oh
decide you
yeah,
want to be a storyteller at some point, you can always go back to those memories, or hopefully always go back to those memories, and you can pull some of them out and put them in fiction, and just give an air of authenticity, even if you and a handful of people are the only ones that know this came from something.
yeah. No, that's really good advice.
Yeah,
And it's yeah, it's absolutely that's where the best fiction comes from, I think, is there is that grain of truth in there.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. With mine, I know with my stories, I try to always, especially, I try to have an international spin on them.
Hmm.
So I'll try to implement either a trip I'm going to, I might plan a trip based on, hey, let's go here. I've never been to this country, and then I can put it in a story. And I don't really have an agenda. Like I just was in Barcelona back in September of last year. I
Yeah,
had talked to some folks that had gone, so they kind of gave me a. 'Cause I ended up going by myself. A buddy was going to come, and he had to back out because of passport issues. But I was like, nah, I'm a big boy. I've flown to Europe a couple times by myself, so still went by myself. But I didn't know like how I was going to make a story out of it. Like I knew the concept behind the novel, but I didn't know for that setting what was gonna kind of like tickle me and like, oh, I got to include this. So I just went. I went and I
yeah.
experienced it. I met people. I met a bunch of Australians, which was really interesting in Barcelona. But I met a bunch of people, and then when I finally hit the spot that kind of was like, this is it. I was open to it. I was ready for it, and that's
Right.
the part that I ended up writing multiple chapters about in my new novel. So, but I couldn't have done that if I didn't get on that plane, go somewhere, and be open to that experience.
Yeah, yeah. It's sometimes it sneaks up on you when you least expect it as
Mhm.
well. Like
Yeah.
some of the premise of Hot Dose of Hell came to me just from overhearing a couple of conversations in a cafe. And I was like, okay, there's something here.
See, when people talk too loudly, they never know if they'll end up being fictionalized at some point.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little further. When you were in school, was there any writing interest in school? Sometimes that starts at that stage in life. Not always, but
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that was probably the only class I was particularly interested in. I liked sports
okay.
and I liked English, kind of struggled with everything else, more through boredom really than anything.
Right.
But English I was very interested in. I especially loved writing stories and sort of deconstructing and analyzing stories as well.
Mhm.
I was very lucky to have a really nice English teacher who would kind of accept whatever I turned in.
Right.
She wouldn't turn it down or tell me off based on certain content.
Okay.
Um, as you would expect, if there was sort of murder scenes or something like that, and you got 12-year-old handing in this story, she was very cool about stuff like that. So yeah, she really helped sort of keep that enthusiasm going, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
Um, and then you never think you're ever going to make anything of it. It's just
Right.
something you did while you were at school, but you're always interested in stories and
Hmm.
analyzing them. And every so often, I would get something I just want to write down.
Hmm.
And years later, I thought, let's give this a go. I've got some stuff here I want to share, and I've had all these experiences. I've got ways I can sort of turn those into all different kinds of stories.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. People don't always see it, especially when they're younger, is that education background, the one teacher, the one, you go
Yeah,
through, especially here in the United States. I can't speak for education in the UK, but United States, there's a lot of required classes you have to take. You have to take a history, you have to take a math, you have to take a science, English, literature. You have all these required classes, and then there's many times those kids are going through it, and they're forced to take the class, and they need to be. I have this conversation with my daughter frequently. It's like, I don't care about this, Dad. Why do I have to take it? I said, well, you're going to have a knowledge base on something, even if it's just
yeah,
a low level knowledge base. And you might quickly realize if it's say a physics or a chemistry class, like me, you'll probably quickly realize I have no desire to learn how this works. It doesn't connect with my being. I don't care how the molecules and the atoms and the neutrons and all these things. It's not my thing. But the next kid that's sitting next to you is kind of like the world opens up to them and it's the
yeah,
coolest thing in the world. And that's the beauty of taking different classes. But also, then you have that teacher that then sees that interest and then helps harness that. And that if so many writers I've talked to over the years, they'll always point back to one teacher in high
Yeah,
school or earlier that kind of believed in them, and that belief gave them some confidence. We all have imposter syndrome that we suck at this because we do probably suck at it most of the time. But when we don't suck at it, a lot of times we can point back to that one teacher that was like, "You got something here. Keep doing
yeah,
this. Keep working on this." And that's a beautiful thing.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. I always think very fondly of her.
Yeah.
Really
Have you ever
appreciate that.
dedicated a book to her or anything, or
Oh, I don't know if she'd approve fully of the stuff I write.
what teacher wouldn't want to like get older and realize they have a book called, A Hot Dose of Hell,
Exactly, yeah.
dedicated to their memory. So
It's about a bunch of drug addict zombies. It's brilliant.
just name a zombie after her and then you're okay. She'll never
That's a
see
good
it.
shout.
So, talk about that process for you of kind of working in those environments, getting those stories together, and then
Sure.
how did you breathe life into them? Like, when did you sit down and start writing them? And then also, what did the publication look like? Because that's always the big step for people, is a lot of times people will finally decide I'm going to write a story, and most people will never finish it, but the few people that will finish it, they get done with it, and then the biggest question almost everyone has is, the hell do I do with this thing now? And some people never do anything with it or can't
Yeah.
figure out what to do with it, but you did. You figured something out. So how did that work for you?
For me, I started off with short stories
Okay.
and submitting them to small publishers,
Hmm.
small indie publishers. And from there, I was able to gain the confidence to then start working on bigger projects.
Absolutely.
And Hot Dose, for example, started off as a very much a short story with just an initial concept, and it just kept growing as more characters came into it. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, I've got a novel here. Let's
Hmm.
keep going. Let's see where all these characters end up. When it came time to decide what to do with it, I looked around at what the publishers were asking for at that time, what they were looking for. And I
Hmm.
had tried to query a couple of agents and a couple of publishers, and I sort of saw where the wind was blowing
Yeah.
in that regard. So I decided to put it out myself, especially based on the content of Hot Dose and some of the things that are in there. I thought it's probably a bit too provocative, even if I was Stephen King and this was my 20th book. I don't think anyone's going
Right.
to touch this. So let's me put it out myself and see what happens with it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the same thing over here in the United States. It's always a struggle. So many people and myself as well. I started querying my first novel. Man, I can't remember now. I wrote it in 2014, so I think I started the query process definitely by 2015, early 2016. I think 2015 is when. And it's crazy because you think you have something and then other people might read it, which is always a bad thing if your other people are your mom or your good friends, then of course they think you got something. But if
Yeah.
you give it to people you don't know and they're like, you got something here, you kind of get excited thinking, okay, an agent's gonna be interested in this, and then an agent's gonna be able to sell it to a publisher, and then, screw you, Stephen King, I'm next, I'm the big deal. Doesn't really
Doesn't
work
happen.
that way for most
No,
people. Doesn't really. You just
no.
I stopped counting after I think 100 rejections. Um, I wrote the next book, started that process again, rejections, and then I'd written a third one. I didn't even query the third one because I had kind of realized I was going after the wrong market with what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was the fourth book I wrote and it still only got me a small publisher. It didn't get me, I did query it for big agents. I had like New York Times bestseller read the book and be like, yeah, really good. You're going to get a deal with this. And then I queried their agent, other agents, and it was just like one door kept closing after another. And it was,
Yeah.
if you get the same stuff, like if everyone comes back at you and says, "Man, your character development is weak," then okay, you got a flaw with your story that really well-trained agents are all picking up on. But when they all come back with kind of different comments, like, "Oh, I didn't connect with this," or I'd have one person say, "I didn't connect with the story," and the next person would say, "Oh, the story was great." I'm like, so I didn't send them different stories. They
Yeah.
both got the same one. So that's when it kicked into me and I realized, oh, this business is so subjective. What one person really enjoys, another person thinks is a complete piece of dog shit.
Yep.
And it's kind of just and then I just had to start come to the mindset of, do I query this forever or do I start looking at other avenues? Because I thought the book, which was The Body Man, I thought it was good enough to be published. And I did not want to spend, I have multiple people I know that spent 3 or 4 or 5 years getting an agent, got an agent, and the agent still to this day, years later, has never sold one of their manuscripts.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't want to write books to sit them on my hard drive the rest of my life and hope that one day an agent sees the concept or the vibe and they're then maybe able to sell it to a publisher. It's like, man, I'd rather go a different route versus I'd
Yep.
rather have a bookshelf of books out that, have been read by a bunch of people, but not a million people. I'd rather have that versus, and I've written 7 books or 9 books or 10 books, and they all sit on my hard drive, and everyone says no, and I'm like, no, that's not why I do this.
Yeah. It's such a huge waste of time as well, isn't it? It's like the time you spend querying and tracking these people down and chasing them. You could have written another book
Yes,
or at least another few stories or something. You could have done something so much more productive. And you
absolutely.
never know who's going to find your stuff
Right.
because the internet is, it's everywhere. Like we were saying, it connects everybody. So, like for me, I'm just writing these little stories from down the south end of England, and then you and John Guarneri come across my stuff, and put me in the anthology. So yeah, you never know who's gonna find it that way, but it's got to be out there for somebody to find it.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, especially too, the just as I've entered, say 2016 area, about 10 years now that I've been in the business or in the writing industry, it's changed pretty dramatically in 10 years. And I keep trying to look at the crystal ball this last year or two and going, okay, how's it going to change in the next 10 because of AI? I don't know that traditional publishers are going to, not that they'll be completely gone, but they're not going to look anything like they look now, I think, in 10 years. And they have to
Mm,
adjust to the market. They have to adjust. I think I read something recently that Barnes& and Noble was going to start. I was at a Barnes& and Noble last night. I went and saw a movie and kind of dived into the Barnes& and Noble because I had 15 minutes before the movie started. I read that they're starting to do, or they're open to having AI books in their book and mortar stores, which of course is
yeah,
freaking authors out. Because especially like from indie authors, I can't get my books. I can get in the local Barnes and Noble, if I go talk to them or whatever, but I can't get it nationally because I'm,
yeah,
an indie publisher. You tell me you're gonna start putting AI that a computer wrote a book and you're gonna put that front and center? It's like, no, that sucks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was going to say that's really nice though that in America you can go to a local store and they will take on your stuff and take a chance on you.
Not in
That
the
is really
UK?
cool. Not at all. Not
Really?
at all. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not like that at all in the UK. There is a real snobbish kind of
Okay.
attitude about everything, and we've got a really harsh, really entrenched class system here,
Yes,
and
I've
you feel
noticed.
it. And under those circumstances, you really feel it. You're like, I walk in, offering my book to somebody, and they'll turn their nose up at me before they turn their nose up at me as a customer sometimes,
Right.
It's like that. So yeah, it's not
Wow.
the same. So I mean, that's one I think I really appreciate about America and Americans, and I'm so glad that I'm so much more connected
Hmm.
to talking to Americans through the internet as well. So yeah, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you guys. My
Yeah.
biggest readership is in the US.
Okay.
I don't sell quite as many in the UK, which is funny because it's got a very British identity. It's a
Right.
British setting, and it's
Yes.
got a very British voice.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny. I hear from readers in America, and they're really enjoying like analyzing the dialect of the characters and
Right.
figuring out how they talk and asking me. I'll get a message like, what does this word mean? It keeps coming up. So
Who's a
yeah, it's
wanker?
great
Am I
fun.
a
Yeah,
wanker?
exactly. Yeah, what's that mean? Like, well,
That's too funny. That's too funny. Yeah, I think. Well, I think too. Ever since we threw all your tea into the harbor, we've just had this connection. Obviously,
yeah,
as starting off as a colony. Many 250. We're actually at our 250 this in the next week or so. So it's kind of wild, but I there's still even all these years later, people look back. there's a fondness. Like we were talking a little bit offline. You know, I've been to the UK 3 times now. My maternal grandfather was born, and I should know where. And it starts with an L, and it'll come to me like in 5 minutes of talking to you. But he was born in England. He actually came over in early 1900s and went through Ellis Island. So he went through the kind of traditional American vetting of being a
Right.
citizen. So I actually went to Ellis Island one time and I wanted to look up his name being in there and stuff years ago. But yeah, I think there's a romanticism still for many Americans that they look back and they look at the monarchy and they look at where they came from, and then the romanticism quickly goes, but yeah, but we got free of that. We
Yeah.
kind of we paved our own path, and which I think is a beautiful thing. And then not getting political, but you look at what we've done with that, and there's still some great things we've done with that, but then we've fallen so much into completely different system in the sense of how the UK government works versus the US government, but we fall into the same old tropes of just like, you know, not standing up for what we believe, or like, oh, we'll elect these people and they got our best interests in heart. They're like, no, no,
Yeah.
the company spent $1 billion to nominate that person for president.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't give a shit what you think. They just expect you to pay your taxes, buy your goods, and shut up if you have a problem with any of that. So I don't know. We took this great experiment, and who knows what
Kind of in a similar place still. Yeah.
probably
We
probably
do this thing very well over here. We do sort of quiet disobedience. We're like, you're not allowed to do that, and we'll go, all right, and then we go and do it.
we go and do it.
So that's what the Brits do. We do that so well.
Well, I wanted to ask you that. Didn't even have this written down or any of the thoughts, but kind of was thinking about it recently. Is you never know what, again, it's a beauty for having an online presence, and obviously we can connect, but you also don't know if what you read or what you see is the truth anymore.
Sure.
I've read a lot and heard a lot about, especially in the UK, there's been a very big crackdown on social media and people actually getting arrested for posts they've put online.
Yeah.
A, is that true? And B, have you experienced that in regard of, do you have any kind of like real world, knowledge of
Yeah.
what's happening?
It's something I'm wary of with the material that I work with.
Yeah.
Um, but it's not something I've personally known anyone to go through.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit of a psyop. I think it is a little bit of a government maybe picking on the odd person here and there.
Hmm.
Sometimes that person, funnily enough, sometimes that person's part of the establishment
Hmm.
in a way. They might be on the fringe of the establishment, be like famous comedian who had sitcom for 20 years is being told off for his social media and hauled in. So it makes everyone else scared.
Yeah.
And for all I know, that comedian's in on the joke, if you know what I
Right.
mean. He's in on it. It's just to try and make us all shut up.
Okay.
But again, it's that quiet disobedience thing where we all just carry on.
You're just, yeah.
We all just say whatever. And there's been quite a lot of open rebellion against our government lately. There's been, I don't know if you've seen any of the protests or riots that are going on, or
I have,
all that kind
yes.
of stuff. There's lots of that.
Yeah.
It's more than probably what they're showing.
Right.
Um, and also the problems that we have are definitely being hugely magnified online.
Yeah.
Like I do worry sometimes some of the Americans that I talk to what they think is going on over here, because
Yeah.
it's not quite that. I don't want to get too far into the politics and
Oh,
what's
no, no,
going
no.
on, but
Yeah, but
it's not quite what they
right.
think it is.
Well, I will say
It's
from,
probably quite similar to what you guys have gone through lately.
yeah. Well, I'll say
Um,
I've heard online and definitely some of the things in the last couple of years. It's like, don't go to London. Someone's going to steal your phone. You could be the victim of some sort of assault or whatever. That I've been to London twice in the last 3.5 years.
yeah,
Multiple days spent there. One of them completely by myself for 2 days. Um, I always, when I go to a country, I always have a social awareness. I try to, kind of research a little bit where I'm going to go. Like, okay, what areas do I want to see? And honestly, I stay in the tourist area because I'm
yeah,
wanting to see Big Ben, or I'm wanting to, go to Buckingham Palace, or do kind of touristy type of stuff. I'm not going let me go into the suburbs. Let me go into these rough neighborhoods where I've heard that they're beating up, people that don't have the same faith. Let me go hang out in those places. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. So, and so I'm always like, I was in, like I mentioned, Barcelona. I was in Barcelona last September, and I roamed around the city a lot one of the days. Didn't take a car or anything, just kind of did a lot of walking, probably like 10, 12 miles that day. And I found this, there was one street I was walking down. It was a very populated street, so it wasn't this back alley kind of thing. But I was watching this guy, and I was watching him watch people.
Mm.
And I profiled him for sure, what he was doing, how he was acting. And I walked on the other side of the road and made sure I put, my back with my head looking on the swivel of like, something's not right there. And
Yeah.
so when I'm traveling these cities, I'm trying to be friendly and not look paranoid and also not look like a tourist, which I will definitely in most.
Yeah.
But I'm always trying to look at my environment to say, okay, is this passing the smell test? But speaking of London, man, I had great experiences there. And don't hold your phone and be too, whether you're local or not, don't do stupid flashy stuff. Don't be
Yeah. Don't
flipping
show
around
things off.
cash or anything.
Yeah.
Just do your thing, but you need to have a awareness no matter whether you're in London or New York or Greenville, South Carolina, which is close by me. Be smart. Just be smart where you are.
But that's the thing, especially with tourists, is that those type of people, they recognize a tourist a mile off.
Yes.
And the way a tourist moves is different to the way a local moves. A local is going to be moving with purpose, knowing exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
A
and then you
local
got
is
the
just on
selfie
the move.
going like, hey.
Yeah, straight out your hand.
Exactly.
And that's all cities. That's
Right.
it's not just here.
Yeah.
I wonder if to a certain extent it's been magnified towards you guys to almost make you feel better about how it's been to a degree the last few years there with some of the problems you've had. And to
Maybe.
be like, it's not gone that bad. And it's like, well, it's not gone that bad here either, but
Right.
you know.
I think it's all a psyop sometimes. Sometimes
Yeah,
I just think all the governments are in cahoots and saying, how do we get these idiots to be the cogs in the wheel that need to build the stuff for us and keep the market going? And
yeah.
let's just keep them scared and let's keep them, in the United States especially, let's keep them fat and happy and let's put in some fast food and let's get them Netflix and they can they can eat unhealthy. They'll need our medical. They can watch TV.
Oh
So they're
yeah.
not out exercising. This is great. And they'll breed. They'll make some more of those, and then we'll have more to keep the machine going. And I hate to have that negative thought in my head, but I'm like, I don't know. I think there's
I think
probably
that's what it is. Yeah. We're like in a giant farm.
yeah,
We're the product and we don't know it. No,
yeah,
I feel that more and more every day.
right.
I do, yeah. But you can rebel against it. You
You
can
can,
you can move away from it. You can avoid it.
right.
You can make those little choices that take it away from them. You can go to little local businesses and pay them in cash for everything. You can
Yep.
switch off those subscriptions. You can avoid all that stuff, and you
Mhm.
can sort of stick within your community of people that you like and you trust. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Community is, I like that word especially because I think that's the thing that people ignore too often is that community you build, that small network of people that are in your, close proximity. Those are the ones that matter. And it's not that the big governments don't matter, the big issues, because I think that's the other thing I think we're kind of programmed to get into is all the, especially here in the United States, right versus left. You're either a Republican or you're a Democrat. And if you're one or the other, that other person is the devil. And it's like that person probably agrees with you on 95% of your real world concerns. You
Yeah,
and you might have some big differences in that 5%, but those differences don't define you, and those differences aren't a reason not to sit down and meet him at the market porter and have a drink. I mean,
yeah,
go enjoy. You can still have camaraderie. You can still have a respect for each other and disagree. And I
yeah,
think that's where we've been, at least in the United States, kind of been programmed the last maybe couple decades of like, no, that's your enemy. And it's like, that
yeah.
is not my enemy in any way, shape, or form.
Mm. No, it's got that way here as well. I think we
Yeah,
used to have a lot more nuance about everything.
right,
And like we have like multiple political parties. We don't just have two, but it always seems to be the two that are mainly in power. So it's
right.
kind of gone that way.
Yeah,
I think interesting stuff is happening right now. So
Hmm.
it will be, yeah, it could be some good changes on the way.
Yeah.
But I won't hold my breath, and I'll just focus on my life. You
Right.
know?
Well, we live in interesting times, like we were talking about,
Yeah,
just the technology of the world. I mean, I grew up born in late 70s, so I grew up. I was talking to my daughter about it recently, and I was talking about being a child of the 80s. She goes, "Well, I mean, you don't really remember the 80s," and I was like, "Yo, I was 14 when the 90s started, or 15." I was like, "I
yeah,
have a lot of memories in the 80s," and then she goes, "Yeah, you guys did have a better. It was a better time to grow up, wasn't it?" And I'm like, "Oh, you guys got screwed." Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I
yeah,
brought you into this world, or helped bring you into this world. I'm like, you guys got totally screwed. I was like, I always speak in these kind of like pleasant experiences of like, yeah, we in the United States, we used to Saturday mornings watch wrestling and get on our bikes and go ride. And, our parents weren't on Life 360 going, okay, they are on the corner of Pike and Rawling Street, and now they've crossed over and they're riding their bike 6 miles per hour. And are they sending a text as they're riding their bike? I mean, you didn't have any of this crazy technology. It's like my parents said, "Come home when the street lights come on." Literally,
yeah.
you know,
Same. Yeah, it was
dinner.
very like that.
Yeah, it's very and but the bad thing obviously is as a parent now, yeah, I don't have Life 360 on my kid. My son's grown now, anyways. But but yeah, I'm kind of hovering like, where are you going? What are you doing? And I'm like, crap, man, my parents never did that stuff to me. It's like
Yeah,
all these horrible internet stories of all these abductions and I've researched, unfortunately, for stories, trafficking, and I was in an FBI class, and we had a whole night about human trafficking and child sex trafficking. And it was just like, you walked out of that class going, I will never let my kid leave my
yeah,
house.
I bet.
I will never
Yeah,
go. Like, it's like this small little town where I live, and they're getting these pedophiles like crazy. They can round them up all the time. It's like, what the hell?
yeah.
So it's oh yeah, it's so you kind of have to compartmentalize it time and go, okay, there's bad stuff out there, but the kids also have to live their life.
That's it. Yeah, and they've got to be smart as well, haven't they? They've got to be switched on to this stuff, and then you can kind of trust them to look after themselves as
Yeah.
well.
My son had an experience. I've already shared it on the podcast, and I won't go through the whole thing
Oh,
again.
I saw that. You were talking to JL, yeah? JL Engel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, and that was literally 5, 6 miles, however many miles it is from my house.
yeah.
And it was one of those things that at least it brought it, and that was about 2 years ago now, or close to 2 years ago, I guess. But it kind of brought it back to the reality of you've got to train. I think as his karate sensei had told him, and as I talked to him about it, he made all the right decisions.
Mm,
So I think if you can empower your kids to, and doesn't mean something bad can't happen to them, but if you can make them, like we were talking about with security in a big city or wherever, situational awareness. Look
yeah.
at your environment. If something doesn't feel right, it's not right. Even if there is really nothing wrong going on, but if your intuition tells you something is not right, you have that fight or flight hard programmed into your DNA, probably from, you know, millennia ago when you're getting chased down by wild animals because we didn't have houses and cars and guns and all these other technology stuff or um but man, if something in there feels wrong, go with it. Go with it. Even if there's nothing there, go with it
So
because
what did you lose if you were ignored it? You,
correct.
you have everything to lose. If you act on it, whether it was necessary or not, you've always won, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, hey, let's dive into the writer's block. So we got this
Sure.
lovely cover, which this is the only one in existence right
Mm.
now that does not have like not for resale on it.
Oh
I got
wow.
I got one of those over here. It's like told John, it's like the heck do I do with these things? So I don't know. John said keep them, keep them. This one I'll keep. This will be the one I keep for probably myself. Um, you'll have one for yourself. We'll have to ship one across the pond.
Oh
We'll
yeah.
take the slow boat over there, but we'll get you one. So. Um, Out on July 7th. And let's talk about Last Orders. How did
Okay.
that story come together? After just our conversation with your background, I quickly realized, I see where some of the story, might
Oh,
have
absolutely.
materialized. So let's talk about Last Orders though.
So Last Orders is set in a little dive bar and it's a typical night for this dive bar,
Hmm.
as told from the perspective of one of the security guys. There's two bouncers on the door there, and it's their experiences through the night. And a certain customer comes in who might be more than what he seems, might be
Hmm.
something to watch out for. And it's sort of in there with all the sort of humorous events and all different kinds of things that go on in a typical night in a bar, and
Yeah.
all the different sort of characters you get in a local bar, all the regulars and stuff.
Hmm.
And this one element gets introduced that sort of turns things on its head a bit.
Hmm.
And it's very much that thing that we were talking about just now, actually, about like having your awareness and knowing there's something off about somebody,
Yeah.
and that happens in that story. That's, the main character. He knows there's something not quite right
Right.
with this guy and keeps his eye on him all night until it's revealed.
Hmm. Well, I love it. I love the references. Even references that U.S. Like there's some boxing references without giving stuff away.
Oh
There's some
yeah,
boxing references that that it's like that's part of my childhood. It's like I don't watch as much now, but back when I was a kid, you knew Ali and you knew Mike Tyson, and just man, just different again, different vibe like we were talking about before. Kind of like
yeah,
now I don't think kids have those experiences as much. And I'm not sure how the UK goes fighting. I will say I've never gotten to the UFC. I've watched a few things, but now they used to always be pay-per-view here in the United
mm,
States. And they've kind of moved over to the streaming services. Paramount and Netflix has done some stuff. So I was kind of skeptical I guess about 2 weeks ago, or almost 2 weeks ago now. UFC did an event at the White House for the 250th anniversary of our country. Very skeptical about it when I heard about it. I'm like, we're building a ring in the South Lawn. And it got a lot of political talk over here because people are like, hey, that's not what the White House is for. And then, of course, the other side's like, yo, you do these events at the White House. You have these singers come perform at the White House, in the East Room and, to the other side. So again, there's always that conflict.
yeah,
But I put it on my calendar and I was like, yeah, I'll watch it. I mean, I would think I was hiking that day and I got home in time for it. And yeah, when they did the flyby over the big claw thing and the White House in the background, I'm like, okay, that's freaking cool. And
yeah,
I ended up I watched the whole event, thoroughly entertained by the event. The fights were all good. Just the last match, both guys did their walkout from the Oval Office. And live streamed it. You got the camera, they're following the camera guys, they're walking out, and I'm like, okay, that's really cool. That's
yeah,
really cool to like see like them standing there looking at the copy of the Declaration of Independence and next to the Resolute desk and then walk all the way out and down to the ring. And I'm like, yeah, I'll give him a pass on that one because I
yeah.
enjoyed I enjoyed the visuals of that. So
I think that was like an awesome display of what reminds me of my first experiences of seeing America, of like the 80s America,
hmm.
the kind of Rocky Four, Top
Yeah.
Gun America,
Yes.
like we kick ass
Right.
and we're awesome. And I loved all that.
Yeah.
It's such a shame that you guys moved away from that, and I'm glad you're getting back to it. Really
Maybe.
glad.
At least for the
We don't get so much of that here. It's very different. The people would like to be like that, but the government was complaining about people waving flags 5 minutes ago, so
yeah. We
it's
had
not
that.
ideal.
There was just something in the news yesterday about some community. I don't remember where it was. Maybe up Massachusetts. I was somewhere up on the East Coast, further up from where I am at. That the community they were complaining something about the American flags people are putting out for July 4th that they were like something I don't remember. It's something about them being a distraction or a problem with birds or with animals and stuff. And it's like, folks, seriously, we're gonna have a problem displaying our national flag in a community because
Yeah.
of a bird or a fish or whatever animal life. No, no, I
No,
don't think so.
yeah. It's quite funny. It's that quiet disobedience or not so quiet disobedience thing. They've made a big deal out of it here,
Hmm.
and people were just quietly going up and just hanging up flags all over the place, hanging them
Yeah,
all along roads on every lamppost.
right.
They were painting the cross, the George's Cross, on our roundabouts. Do you have
Mhm.
roundabouts in America?
Yes,
Yeah,
not as
yeah,
many as you, but they're more popular now. You see
yeah,
them pop up a lot more in communities. Yes.
yeah. So they were sneaking out and painting the George's Cross and all the roundabouts and stuff. So. Yeah, so we've still got it. We still got it. The people have got it.
The
It's just
people
the
have got it.
government. The government doesn't like us, and the government
Yeah,
doesn't like it.
right,
The establishment, should I say, the whole system doesn't
right.
like it.
Well,
But I'm sure them.
the system, the government, whether it's the United States and the monarchy, or whether it's the U.S. and the presidency and Congress and Senate, they they walk this. Be careful how I say this. But they walk this fine balance of control. I guess you could really use the word. They walk this fine balance of how they elicit their control or how they expect, the obedience, the laws, everything to take place. But the people really don't understand that they do have the power. So, like
Mm,
here, I'll say here in the US, we've got 1,000 elected, less than 1,000 elected officials in the big positions, at least if you combine everything together. And obviously, we have local communities and governors and mayors and all that stuff. But if you actually look at the power structure versus the amount of people, the people got it. So if the people
yeah,
decide, hey, we're cool with hanging our flags, and you're not going to tell us not to do that, the government, and especially here in the US, we've got more guns than we have people.
yeah,
So probably when it came down to it, if there was enough of a clampdown or like you can't fly your flag anymore, I don't think you can stop it if enough of the people go,
I
I got a
agree.
9 millimeter or I got a 5.56 that says I can.
Yeah,
And I never, not encouraging people to do any of that stuff, but the there's a little bit more of a power imbalance than I think people acknowledge there is. So
yeah. There's those moments. That's why they're trying to clamp down on the internet sometimes as well, because sometimes you see evidence of those moments. Like
yeah.
you're talking about obviously the gun thing, and that is a big difference between us. But ultimately, the people have the power. Like just recently, the police tried to suppress a protest over here. Our police did. They
Hmm.
got beat up by wheelie bins. Yeah, people were chucking their wheelie bins at them, and that's become like a meme.
Yeah.
Police got beat up by wheelie bins. So it doesn't matter what you've got, as long as you've got enough people, the people will win. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to study and to watch. And it's a fascinating time to live through because we don't know. I don't know what to think about the AI stuff, but I was watching. I was tired the other night, and I got done editing Downfall. I was working on an edit for Downfall, my newest novel, and I'll just at the end of the night just turn everything off in my head. And the easiest way to do that is to watch something. So I've got a bazillion movies. I got DVD collection, all that, and I was just like, I haven't seen Terminator 2 in a long time. So I threw Terminator 2 on, which is the worst movie for AI, being scared of AI, because you're sitting there watching it going, how close are we to this? How close
Yeah,
are we to the machines being like, we need 100, we got 8 billion, we need 100,000 of these people to run the server farms and the hydroelectric dam and the nuclear power plant, and we don't need these little ants anymore. And it's just, I don't think that that's how it's going to go down, but if James Cameron had foresight, it may be how it goes down. So,
they decide we've got to go. I think the thing with AI that, from what I've observed of it, is it's not actually thinking for itself. It's not actually making any decisions as such. It's
mhm.
just doing tasks.
Right.
So it's not really the same as how we think of it,
Yeah.
or how it's sort of being sold to us in that way. Like it's actually able to do all this stuff. It's like, no, you've got to ask it to do all that stuff. You've
Right.
got to feed it all this information. So I guess in theory, if someone fed it a load of information and a load of opinions to make it think we need to take people out and then put that in a robot, then,
Right.
then you would get that.
Yes.
But someone would have to do that first.
Right.
It would
Yeah.
have to
No.
come from a person in the first place. So I don't know. Maybe if it listened to the absolute worst people on the internet only, then it
If it
might get
watched
those
Terminator
ideas.
2, if we load
Yeah.
Terminator 2 into its server and say this is the future, you need to create the T-1000 and you need to take out these little pests, these wankers. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see it. I know even like I obviously enjoy writing, but I have a day job. And my day job, and I do finance, and they've definitely encouraged us to start using AI more, and we are. But there's a lot of things I've tried to get it to do that, at least to some degree so far, it's not able to spit out what I am asking. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, be more specific. And it's like, well, if I spend too much specific time, I can do the task myself.
Yeah.
And what we get regurgitated to us is that, well, the more you instruct it, the more it will learn. And I get that concept, but I've had better luck with it on a book standpoint, asking it to create images for me, where it's done better job with stuff like that, like a creative side, which is horrible in a way because I don't want to take jobs away from a graphic designer or anyone like that. But the flip side is I also don't want to go spend 150, 200 US dollars on some marketing images that might never make their money back when I can literally go into ChatGPT and I can create something that's exactly what's in my head for free. I got
Yeah.
5 images a day I can create, which I don't do very often, but every now and then I'll create something and I'll be like, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I need.
Hmm.
And so, from an economic standpoint, so then at least I struggle with, am I part of the problem now that I'm using? Because I don't use it for anything word related in the sense of what I'm writing.
Yeah.
And I know people that do that. I know people that will run it through, like, they'll go into an AI, a chat GPT or whatever, and they'll say, hey, how do I describe this? Or how do you do that? And I'm like, yeah, I don't want a machine giving me ideas for stuff like that.
No, that's what you've got a fellow reader for, a fellow writer, should I say.
Right.
That's you bounce your ideas off them. You're in a little chat group. What do you think of this paragraph here, mate? And they'll give you their answer. So yeah, I think, and it's going to be it's always everything I've seen from AI is very flat,
Hmm.
is very lifeless. It's
Yes.
you can smell it a mile away. I see it a lot on reviews because I think there's
Right.
a lot of these a lot of people, unfortunately, they buy reviews, don't they? You see
Yes.
that online, and they'll buy reviews, and it's like this was typed together by not even typed. Some guy over in India somewhere has just inputted the summary of your book
Right.
into a little chat GPT and printed, he's copied and pasted that into Goodreads, and
Yep.
you've just paid 50 quid for him to do that for you.
Exactly.
It's silly.
Do you get,
Um,
just from a writing perspective, do you get emails that are like offering to either do reviews or whatever? They're offering some service or podcast or stuff, but they're kind of like giving you a synopsis of what you write and be like, hey,
oh,
how
it's always,
details.
yeah,
Okay. I think
yeah,
we
you
all get
see
the same
those.
ones, no matter which country
Yeah,
we're in, but
yeah, I really like the way you do da 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 da, and your book has, and it's just certain words that just pop out, and they're just structured in a certain way
yeah,
that you just like that's just AI.
yeah,
Before you even go and look and see where the person's from and see how suspect their profile is, it's
right.
still just from the language alone you can pick up on it. It just doesn't sound right. It's like that uncanny valley thing with the CGI. They've been
Yeah,
trying now for what 30 years or so to make convincing CGI people,
right.
and it never looks right.
Yeah.
Never looks right. No matter how much money they spend on it, it always looks like, "Oh, that's weird."
Hmm.
Your eye just knows, and it's the same thing with the writing. You can tell that's not come from a person.
Yeah.
I don't know how quite to put your finger on it, but you just know, you feel it in your gut.
Yeah. I get emails. So I got an email the other day from Oprah Winfrey. I thought that was kind of
Oh
like,
yeah.
I was very interested. And I thought of you, thinking about this thing. I had one a couple months ago that came multiple times from Harry and Meghan.
Oh
So,
really? Wow.
the ex-royals were
Yeah.
wanting me to be part of their Netflix deal or whatever that they've got. And I'm like, well, this one looks legit. We got some British money gonna gonna fund the body man. There we go. So
Amazing. Obviously, you'd have to put her in the film as well.
of course, 100%. I will write a character for her. So yeah, no, it's always again, even like them, Americans have this fascination with, or certain Americans, not it's not widespread probably, but just a fascination with the royals, probably because it's something we don't have. So I think
Yeah.
there's a romanticism about having this family that, owns most of the land and has most of the wealth and makes most decisions, which of course is not how it works. But we just, a lot of people have been brought up with that fairy tale lifestyle of, oh, for girls to become a princess, or guys, you're the king of your manor, you're the lord of
Yeah.
your manor or whatever. There's this I don't know, it's always funny. So and I've bought into it in the sense of, yeah, when I've come to the UK, I've done the Tower of London tour. I've done it multiple times now. And actually the last two times ago when I went by myself, which was 2022, I said to myself, okay, I've been here before. I've already done Big Ben. I've done Westminster Abbey. I've done a lot of the tourist stuff. I'm not going to do them again. But darn it, wouldn't you know, I'm downtown and I'm looking down, whatever the thoroughfare there is, and there's Big Ben in the distance, and I'm like, I'll just walk down and see it again. I haven't seen it in at the time was 20 something years. Um, and then it took my mom 2 years or a year and a half ago. I took her. She had never been overseas. So, and of course, she wanted to see the changing of the guard and she wanted to see the Tower Bridge and, all those things. But they're still cool to see. It's kind of like when I come, like you mentioned, coming to the United States or, your thoughts on the United States in the 80s. It's like I've been to Washington so many times. I used to live about an hour and a half south of Washington. But every time I go, there's that little excitement of seeing the Lincoln Memorial or seeing the Washington Monument or going in the White House, which used to be somewhat easy to do. Now it is an act of Congress to try to get a ticket and see inside it. But those things, just like kind of when I'm in London, of going to see those historic spots or those memorable spots that are the kind of the landmarks of that city.
Yeah.
There's an interest of still going and doing that stuff.
It's just that you just feel the history, don't you? And I think it's
Yeah.
just it's intriguing, and you form your own opinion on what it is as
Right.
well. But you've got to go see it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna tell you, so one of my readers, I've got the hat. Yeah, the hat's here behind me. Let's say, where is it? One of my readers, when I went there in 2022, so I went over there to so I've mentioned the podcast before. Every other year since my divorce, I don't have my kids. And I just made this decision years ago that when I don't have them for Thanksgiving, I don't want to like be 30 minutes from my kids and, have Thanksgiving dinner with friends or whatever. So I go overseas. So 2022 Shinedown was doing a UK run. And I talked to John before that, and he said, "Well, come over and why don't you catch some shows?" And I was like, "Man, I only got a couple days and I could catch the Cardiff show if I went." So I flew over to London, took the train from Paddington up to Cardiff, did the Shinedown show, and on the back end, I had like 2 days in London. So one of my readers at the time was a Metropolitan Police. So
Cool.
it's actually a hard hat. So it's actually a hard. So he gives me this. So we're at the. He goes, let's have a drink. So he was at the time doing more of the uh, not security. He was a police officer, but he was doing more like embassy stuff where he was guarding like embassies and different stuff like that. And so he was doing overnight shift. And because I thought we were going to meet like for coffee or breakfast or whatever. And he goes, "Hey," I get there, I'm settling in, and I was like, "Do you want to meet tomorrow?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah, let's meet." He goes, "Can you meet at 6 a.m.?" I was like, 6 a.m.? Where do you want to meet at 6 a.m.? And he's like, "Market Porter." I was like, "Oh my goodness, what?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah, it's first bar that opens after I get off my shift. It's like the first bar in London that opens, basically." So there I was at 6 a.m. getting a souvenir and sitting down at the Market Porter in the Borough Market, which I will say was a really awesome experience. I only had one because literally I had to get up at 5 to catch an Uber to because I was on the other side of London. But then I left there and walked across the London Bridge. I ended up going down to the cathedral, went to the top of the cathedral. So, and kind of, I had that morning before I had to catch my flight out of Heathrow in the afternoon. But it was a fun experience. And again, just being there in the market and after having a beer at 6:15 in the morning, you're kind of like, okay, but it was an experience that, again, probably ends up in books one day is because you're
Yeah.
able to go out there and do these fun things and be able
Yeah.
to fictionalize them. So, yeah, so there's definitely a few bar experiences. You've got much better ones than me, so you probably, you're able to fictionalize yours probably a little bit better, so.
No, that's a nice one. I like that.
Yeah, it was just, again, and it's kind of one of the neat things, like you were saying, how a lot of your readership is United States. I found that I've got readership now overseas, whether it's England or Ireland, Australia. I sell books in Australia.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I'm
Aussies are
head,
great.
I'm heading there in September, so I need to reach out to one of my readers. I think I'll be in the same town as he is. I haven't finalized that portion of the trip yet, but if I am, I need to reach out and see if he wants to meet for, a meal or a drink or something. But it's neat. So I've had like this one. Shoot, I got this. So when I went to Tony gave me this when I went to Ireland back in 2024. Was it November 2024? Yeah. We ended up meeting in Cork, Ireland. Um, it just you never the reason I bring that up is you just never know when you write a story, you write a novel, and you end up putting it out in the world, you don't know how it's going to resonate with readers.
Yeah,
And it's a beautiful thing to then be able to connect with people like on trips where I can go to different countries now and I've got people's cell phone numbers that I can be like, "Hey, let's meet up and let's have a drink or let's grab a coffee or whatever it might be." And that all started from sitting down at a computer or with a pen and paper and writing a story, and you don't know where that story will take you. It might take you on
yeah,
a grand adventure, but you've got to do the work before that adventure can start.
yeah. No, that's great. I love that.
So
It's
go ahead. Sorry.
well, no, it's just saying, yeah, it is amazing all the different people you meet and the connections you make. There's
Yeah.
like so many great people in the writing community.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of most of the people I know are like me, struggling, putting books out. They've got a full-time job, but I also have people, on my phone that have sold 70 million books,
Yeah,
that have been super successful ones. And I try to encourage people because a lot of times they'll see that person get a level of success and envy kicks in sometimes. You're like, man, why'd that person make it or why don't I make it? It's like you got to get all that stuff out of your head. Tell the best story possible. Believe that maybe you will be that 1% of the 1%, but don't have that be what success is. Success
tell it.
is not if you get the Netflix deal. Success is not if you sell a million books. That's an element of success. But success is like we've got with the anthology coming out. Success is being able to hold your book in your hand,
Yeah,
which is totally possible for anybody out there that's writing. Not everybody will make it, but anyone has that ability to be able to hold their book in hand. That's a huge success. You've done something that very few people in the course of human history have ever accomplished. Be proud of that success. Maybe that success will also come with, a Bentley and, friends with, Harry and Meghan. You never know. But don't hang your hat on that having to happen to be successful.
yeah. You've got to do it just for the love of the storytelling, haven't you?
Yes.
And the other stuff comes as an extra.
Right. Absolutely.
I agree.
Speaking of the other stuff, what else does Steve Stark have besides the writer's block out on July 7th? What else is on your plate?
On my plate. So I'm just about to be releasing my third book, which is called Nice Bloody Work.
Nice.
It's a vigilante revenge story, but it's horror again. And
Okay.
a lot of the stuff we were just talking about in terms of what's going on in my country at the moment, a lot of that features.
Hmm.
It's background and it's also part of the story. It's sort of
Okay.
as this character is going through tracking down his targets, there's other things coming into play, and the story gets sort of bigger and bigger as it goes along.
Gotcha.
Hard to say too much without giving it away, but it's going to probably ruffle a few feathers, I'd imagine. But the people whose feathers would be ruffled aren't likely to be reading it.
All right,
So,
yeah, exactly. Um, awesome. I love to, I try to encourage people, man, just follow your passion, stick with it. Because again, you don't know what's going to happen with it. And if it's not, and I say that, and when I say all this stuff, I'm preaching to myself as well. You're always preaching to yourself a little bit. If it's not this story that changes what you think needs to happen, maybe it's the next one.
yeah,
But the other thing too that I try to always remind myself and remind other people too is so often we're stuck on the destination. Once I get this, once I make it over to London and come hang out with Steve and and have a pint, man, I'm gonna feel fulfilled. No, then I'm gonna be like, okay, what's next?
yeah,
It's the journey. It's getting there. it's meeting those people, it's going to those experiences, but there's always an ongoing journey until there's not, until you hit the end of the line, whatever that is. It's the journey of getting there. So even in the writing, it's always the journey. It's not, it's when that book comes out, you're gonna feel excited for a little bit, but you're gonna need a new kick. You're gonna need a new
Yep.
high. And so that typically is write something else. Maybe write something different too. I will fully admit, horror's not normally my thing. When John and I first started talking about this a couple years ago, I was just like, dude, I don't know. I've never written horror before. I don't even read much horror. So it took a little bit for me to kind of get comfortable with the idea, and that's what I needed. I needed
Yeah.
not to be comfortable because I'm like, no, this is actually what I need. Because it's so often you kind of get yourself stuck in this rut of this is what I do, and I think that excitement really kicks in when you sometimes put yourself out of your element and go, man, let's mix it up. So,
I think with yours, I think with everyone, I get a sense of who they are in those stories, and I think with yours, a lot of your personality comes through,
sure,
and a lot of what you're about. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I think there's very much your morality is in that story.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I say this to people all the time. You put a little bit of your soul in every story.
yeah,
Sometimes it's dark side of your soul. It's not always the pleasant Christianity version of your soul. It might be the hell version of your soul. But there's always a little bit of something of you that's put in a story, which I also think is an amazing thing. Like, I've talked about it many times. I work for a corporation. I have a very good job. But man, one day when they decide they don't need me anymore, or I decide I'm not going to do this anymore, when I'm done, I'm done. There's no like, I can't tell my kids, hey, look at these spreadsheets I worked on for years. Look at these budgets. That doesn't exist. This exists behind me.
yeah.
These stories I've created that grandkids or great grandkids could probably read them and be like, what the heck was wrong with great grandpa? What was with this Mayor C character? What kind of strange fantasies does he have or whatever? But no, there's a little piece of you that you're gonna leave behind in those stories, and you can be preachy in the stories sometimes, even if people don't realize you are being preachy, or you can kind of explore some of your ideas and stories, and that's the beauty of it. But if you don't put in the work, if you don't sacrifice, this other thing too is you have to sacrifice something.
Mm.
Um, we're talking like 80s, 90s, and 80s movies especially. Man, I don't watch too many movies typically. Of course, I went and saw Disclosure Day last night, and I taught Toy Story 5 this last week with my daughter, but to actually sit at the house and watch movies is kind of a treat most of the time. It's like, no, I have to get rid of all that stuff, and I need to set off a block of time to work on writing, or maybe tonight it's marketing or setting up next book design, whatever it might be. But you have to give something up to get something in this life.
Absolutely, yeah. Buddy of mine's always trying to get me to play video games. I'm like, sorry, mate, I just don't have the time. I
I
can't
don't
be
have
doing that. I'm writing books.
I know.
Uh,
My kids
um,
have Switches and stuff, and I'm the same. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not interested in finding
no,
another
got
hobby to kill my
no
time.
room for that one.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I'll
So
stick with my writing, the gym, and paddleboarding. That's enough.
there you go. Well, I enjoy
Yeah.
reading your writing. Stick with it for sure. How should people find you if they want to learn more about Steve Stark?
Sure. You can find me on X as Stark Terror 88, and you can find me on Insta as Stark Terror.
Okay. Steve, thanks for coming on, and I'm excited that we got a project together. The Writer's Block is out July 7th.
Cheers for having me on, mate. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.